Hey gang, Voltie here with another deck from my budget series for 7-Point Highlander. Today's deck is a really sweet one that I'm super excited to play when I get the chance. We are playing Umori, the Collector, as a companion, with our chosen card type as Sorcery. Now, on the surface, this is probably a pretty daunting idea, not having any creatures to attack or block with, and being limited to play at sorcery speed. I get it, you're probably freaking out. But what if I told you that Demonic Tutor going to 2 points lets us pull off one of the sweetest combos that top 8 at a PT? Seasons Past. This card is one of my favorite cards of all time. It's just a banger, and we'll get right into it. So Seasons Past returns any number of cards with different CMCs from your graveyard to your hand, so it's a mass regrowth. It then puts itself on the bottom of your library. So as long as one of the cards you're picking up with Seasons Past can tutor for it again, you can do this every turn. So if you're playing against a creature deck and you pick up a removal spell, a wrath, a discard spell, and a tutor, you can have your discard spell, your wrath, and your removal spell cast every turn. So to go with our Seasons Past, we have Demonic Tutor, obviously. We have Dark Petition, which in this deck is going to be Demonic Tutor 80 to 90% of the time. And we have Mastermind's Acquisition, which is more expensive as a tutor, but it does allow us to access our sideboard, which is a pretty potent effect in Highlander when everyone is playing with 60 cards. Now, to go with our Seasons Past, obviously we have to control the game, we have to stay alive, we have to play as many cards as possible and stop our opponent from enacting their game plan. So we'll start off with our discard suite. We've got the usual offenders, Thoughtseize, Inquisition. Mind Twist is one of our 8 points. Duress is in there, Dreams of Steel and Oil is in there, Dread Fugue is in there. We've got quite a lot of options to make sure that our opponent isn't doing what they want to be doing. There's also a Hymn to Turak, just as a way to get ahead on cards. For our removal spells, we've got Innocent Blood, which is obviously never going to impact our side of the board. Chainer's Edict, which has Flashback, which is pretty notable. Damnation and Dead of Winter. There's some other removal spells in there as well. Now, in order to get to 6 mana for Seasons Past, we've got a fair amount of ramp in our deck. So Farseek, Nature's Law, 3 Visits, Explore. There's also a Rampant Growth and a couple of other cheap 2 mana ramp spells. Basically every turn we're going to attempt to clear the board, remove some of our opponent's threats, and get more lands out of our deck, so that eventually we can build up to that critical mass and start doing really silly things every turn. For the main deck, there are a couple of interesting notes as well. So we have some card draw like Night's Whisper. We have some slightly different wraths. So Gaze of Granite is a notable one. Casualties of War, Invoke Despair. These are like our big payoff spells. Never Return can kill planeswalkers and creatures, but it also counts as a 7-drop. So it's really easy to pick up with our Seasons Past and make sure we get full value out of it. And then there's a very small learn package. So we've got Cram Session, we've got Hunt for Specimens, and we've got Field Trip. They give us access to a couple of sideboard cards. And then on top of that, because we have so many tutors, including Profane Tutor, which is one of our other points, we can play a couple of really flexible cards in the main, like Pest Infestation. Now, addressing the elephant or the ooze in the room. Umori is not a good card. It's 4 mana for a 4/5, but it's actually 7 mana, and the spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. So why are we playing such a restrictive companion when there are so many companions available? And the short answer is because it's a companion. We have access to 8 cards in our hand every game. Now, the fact that our main deck does not have creatures means that Umori is more likely to die than normal, but we also have a massive amount of discard spells. So we can try to protect the Umori, or we can just leave it in the sideboard and pick it up once the game has been locked up. You've cast Season Past maybe twice at this point. you've got a bunch of spare mana, and now your season's pass costs 5, your tutor to go get it back costs 1, and now we're cooking. For our sideboard, as mentioned, we do have Mastermind's Acquisition, so we can access our sideboard in game 1. We've got Pick Your Poison, Broken Bond, a couple of disenchants. We've got some various free spells, so Massacre is one of the bigger ones. We've got our lessons that we can cast, so Environmental Sciences is fine, Introduction to Prophecy is fine, and Mascot Exhibition gives us a way to create threats, while also being a 7-drop for our Seasons Past loops. There are a couple of other wraths, some very specific hate cards like Virtue's Ruin and Perish and Sadistic Sacrament, and then Tsunami, which is going to be our easy way to punch a ticket to a victory against a blue deck, as well as a Worst Fears. Honestly, I have no idea if this card is playable, but it's really, really cool, and I kind of want to see someone try to do it. In our mana base, there are some notable inclusions, which would hopefully make this deck a bit more functional. So we have Strip Mine and Wasteland as 3 of our points. This gives us a way to pick up a land or a 0-drop with our Seasons Past while also impacting the board. We can reduce the amount of mana that our opponent is playing with. And if you're picking up a ramp spell with your Seasons Past and a Strip Mine, you can offset that land that you're blowing up on your own side. We have a couple of creature lands, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, Blink Moth, and Ink Moth. These might be strange inclusions to some of you, because we're not playing any of the green-black dual creature lands. The main reason we're playing Blink Moth and Ink Moth is to challenge the Monarchy and the Initiative. Cheap, flying creature lands that don't cost much to activate and come into play untapped when we need our mana to come into play untapped are the name of the game here. We've also spent a point on Caracas. The card is broken. I think more people should be playing it. Ideally, if this weren't a budget deck, there'd be more fetches, and you could be picking up your fetches with your Seasons Past, but as it's not, we've got a couple of dual lands and then a bunch of basics for our ramp spells to make sure that we're always hitting with them. This deck is really sweet, and I'm really surprised it came together for under 200. The fact that we are spending the big portion of the money that is being spent on the deck is for cards that are good in a general sense, and you won't feel too bad if you invest into the format by playing a deck as janky as this one. So, we're spending money on things like Thoughtseize and Damnation. These cards are just good. You'll play them for the life of your time playing Highlander if you decide to play those colors, so don't feel too bad. There are also quite a few cards that are notably expensive that you might be able to borrow, where the rest of the cards are, 20-cent, 50-cent commons and uncommons. That's the deck. It's really sweet, in my opinion. I've been trying to make Umori work for a while. I've been trying to make Seasons Past work for a while. I'm really glad I managed to come up with this, and I will try to play this at some point to get a better idea of what needs to work or what needs to be done to get it working going forward. But otherwise, the link below will give you the deck list, as well as, the links to the other content that I've got going on. So if you like green-black and you like casting sorceries, this deck might be for you. This video and all videos is brought to you by my lovely patrons. If you'd like to see your name on these end screens, feel free to click the links below as well so you can support me and the content. But otherwise, I will catch you all on the flip side.